Hey everyone. With corrosion taking place in the Spiral Abyss and Inazuma, I think it's prime time that Jean is given the attention she deserves with this video. She is an insanely underrated character that just about fits any role you build her as. She also disables corrosion in any way you build her and can carry you through all content just as she has for me. And that is exactly why I want to cover her today, why you should build her, and the great strengths she has. First off, with respect to corrosion, it has no effect on her and the entire party. This is because she's an amazing healer and I personally believe the greatest healer. Not only does she greatly heal with her burst, Jean also heals herself and other party members through her normal attacks thanks to her passive talent, Wind Companion. With this talent, you're able to greatly heal with her burst and constantly heal with her normal attacks. Her healing scales off attack, so the more attack you have on her, the more damage she will do, and thus the more healing she will output. She basically heals all the time, and I think that puts her on the level of Zhongli in terms of being unkillable. Another reason why you should build her instead of other healers is her versatility. All healers fulfill the role of the healer, yet that is all they do aside from Bennett. Just like Bennett, Jean does a lot more than just healing. She also does high damage as both a main DPS and a support. When I first pulled Jean, I built her as a main DPS, and to this day, she's carried me through all content as I've mentioned. So to those that are unsure on building her as their main DPS, I can assure you she's just as good as any other main DPS. I've personally built her as a hybrid physical and anemo DPS simply because I like for her to deal good anemo damage alongside physical. But for the sake of demonstrating her capabilities as a main DPS, what you are seeing is her fully built as a physical DPS. Jean is doing great physical damage due to her normals having high scaling, especially her charge attack. And yes, I did crown her normal attack. At crowned level, Jean's charge attack has an insane scaling of 320%. That's the scaling of a friggin' skill, but for Jean, that is simply her charge attack. Main DPS Jean is somewhat bizarre and often scoffed at, but if you'd like to see me nicer at the current floor 11 and floor 12 with her as my main DPS, you can see my two videos right here. As for support Jean, she will heal just as DPS Jean heals, yet she will be dealing anemo damage, thus your damage will primarily come from her skill, which has great scaling as you can see, and her burst, which also has great scaling.
I swear by my sword, Buddy, stand! I swear by my sword.
And this is another reason why Jean is so great, her skill Galeblade. On top of the strong damage, with this skill Jean can group enemies together, allowing for damage to be dealt to all enemies on the field. You can also fling enemies into the air to deal huge fall damage. This specific method of dealing damage is pretty useful, as you deal a high amount of damage in a small time and protect your team from enemies for a few seconds. A good strategy I'd recommend is to fling the enemy in the air, then, within the cooldown of Jean's Galeblade, deal damage to that enemy through your rotation or main DPS. Another technique is to first charge attack the enemy, then while in the air, use Galeblade to rush the enemy to the ground, which will deal fall damage. And then finally fling them high into the air to deal Galeblade damage and more fall damage. Now these techniques won't entirely be useful in the current Spiral Abyss, as reversing dogmas that are constantly moving in the air, and enemies that can somewhat be flung around yet not take fall damage. This being the Geovishaps, the 3 Mako Genkis, and the Ruin Machines. This technique is effective on the small doggos, but with them moving around so much it's not easy to get a hold of them and push them into the air. And sometimes even if you do push them into the air, the fall damage doesn't always register, so the usefulness of this aspect of her kit is not completely useless, but for sure in future abysses and of course the outside world, when doing this talent with the enemies you can move, this is very useful and deals a ton of damage. To recap, Jean is a great character who will help you in all content, especially in the current Spiral Abyss, with her great healing and strong damage. She's great for those beginning the game, as well as veterans of the game. I hope you learned something new about Jean, and are perhaps reconsidering your views on her.